Hello and welcome to the Radio Waves. I'm your host, Kris Poliquin, and this is a production of Red Apples Media. We're broadcasting out of Real Country, 790 AM out of Leesburg, Florida. And if you're watching us on television, you're doing so on Lake Sumter TV, Comcast Channel 13, Bright House 498, and CenturyLink Prism Channel 83. So today I have invited two guests to talk to about a program, a coalition, that supports many people here in Lake County, and I want to make sure that we get that information out to as many people as we can. And I'm talking about To Be Free or Lake. See, there we go. So I have invited Assistant State Attorney James Argento and the Executive Director, Delrita Meisner. Welcome to the show, and thank you for coming.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, Kris. Thank you.
Oh, again, you don't need to thank me. I think what you guys are doing is fantastic. So let's get into it and let our audience know exactly what we're talking about.
Well, to start off, Be Free Lake used to be known as the Safe Climate Coalition, and we're the county's anti-drug, drug prevention, mental health awareness, anti-violence promoter. Basically, it's our job to try to weed out drug abuse, to try to support programs to weed out bad things that affect our youth populations as well as our adult populations. So that's a little bit about what we do as a coalition. And I'll turn it over to Delrita. She'll talk a little bit more about some of the ins and outs of Be Free Lake and our programs, including the big one coming up.
Absolutely. And just
Yes.
give me a moment, because you're the chairman.
Oh, yes, sir.
What was it, considering your background, but what was it that made you decide to do this in the first place?
Well, a little bit about myself. I'm not from here originally. I'm from South Florida. Grew up in South Florida. Went to undergrad at the University of Florida in Gainesville. Then law school in Tallahassee at Florida State University. While I was up in Tallahassee, I was interviewed and hired by Mr. Brad King, who's the elected state attorney for the 5th Judicial Circuit. The 5th Judicial Circuit includes Marion, Citrus, Sumter, Hernando, and Lake County. So
Gotcha.
he ended up hiring me. I come to Lake County, moved to Mount Dora when I first get here, and that was 11 years ago, and I've been a prosecutor my whole career. So while working as a prosecutor, one of the entities I was involved with, especially when I was juvenile prosecutor, and I was juvenile prosecutor for 10 of my 11 years with the state attorney's office.
Wow.
Oh, it was a lot of work, was Be Free Lake, which was then known, as I said, as the Safe Climate Coalition. And Delrita will explain some of the programs we were doing even then. I'll chime in with one program that we've done, which is the Know the Law video and Know the Law curriculum. We worked with the Shared Services Network of Lake County, the school board, various court officials, in order to create curriculum as well as a booklet which describes to children who go to Lake County schools the consequences of violating the law. We're talking about the criminal penalties. We're talking about the other things that can happen to kids, such as losing driver's license, your driving privilege, such as being fined. There's a whole bunch of things that this book covers that our school children still read in Lake County. So that's what first got me involved with the coalition, was helping them revise the Know the Law subject material.
Okay, because now we're going to get to you. I'm so
Sure,
sorry.
sure, no
but
problem.
It's an important aspect, because ignorance of the law is no excuse. And yet, how do the youth actually learn the law? Because it's not taught.
Absolutely.
It's never taught. We get it from, well, television, movies. Oh no, that's manslaughter. Oh no, that's murder. Now these are high level stuff, but that's important. I think that's important.
And it's great that you mentioned that. What's manslaughter? What's murder? We talk about everything from the principal theory of committing crimes, where you could be charged even if you didn't pull the trigger, if you helped in some way or you aided and abetted in, let's say, a bank robbery or something very, very serious. And that's a hard concept a lot of kids have problems understanding. A lot of adults too, and I prosecute adults now, but that's what a lot of people have a hard time understanding. It's like, oh, I was just a lookout. I didn't actually do anything. Well, if you were the lookout, you're just as guilty as the person who
Right.
did the actual physical crime. So that's one of the programs I'm really proud of that our coalition has been involved with.
It's pretty clear to me that your experience as a prosecutor benefits programs and the youth like this.
Well, and that goes also to our board of directors right now. We have a sergeant from the sheriff's office, Sergeant Jim Vachon. We have an agent from the Department of Business Professional Regulation, their alcohol regulation unit, so an actual sworn law enforcement officer, Rebecca. We have Sabrina Dillon Banks from the school board, who's been in charge of some of the major programs for the school district. We have Donna Klinger, who helps with the public. She's an investigator for the public defender's office, and she's worked a lot on some veterans issues, which we're going to talk about as we go throughout the program, I know. And that was one of the reasons we came on, was to tell about this big program we're going to be doing for the veterans. And who else do we have on our board, Delrita?
That's pretty much it.
We had other
yes,
illustrious
yes.
community members, B.E. Thompson, Stephanie Glass, you name it.
Right,
We've had
right,
a lot of great
right,
board
correct.
members in the past.
Correct.
Okay. So, Delrita, let's shift it to you just a little bit. Tell our
Right,
audience a little bit about who you are
Okay.
and why you do what you do.
All right. I want to first thank you so much for allowing us to be on the show to help promote Be Free Lake. And my name is Delrita Meisner. I'm originally born and raised in Guam, but lived in Lake County for the past 17 years. So I have a passion for helping our youth. My career first started in Lake County. I was helping students prepare for a college education, and then realized that after several years of doing that particular work, there was something bigger that we needed to help our youth with, and that's health and wellness. Because essentially, we can't really focus on helping our students prepare for college or the workforce if they're not making healthy choices. And
Right.
one of the reasons why Be Free Lake is still in existence is because it aims to address the importance about keeping our youth safe from drugs, keeping our youth safe from violence. So many people normally ask, what is Be Free Lake? Well, be free of substance misuse, be free of violence. Just to give you a little history, Be Free Lake has been in existence for about 15 years. The coalition...
Yeah, it's amazing how long it's been around.
Absolutely. The coalition is a part of 21 coalitions throughout the state that currently provides prevention activities. So we are trying to keep kids away from drugs and alcohol before it becomes a problem. Lake County was ranked 6th in the state for underage drinking out of 67 counties several years back.
That's remarkable.
Absolutely. So that was the motivator for the development of this coalition. So during the inception, the aim was to address underage drinking. How can we get underage drinking down? Well, throughout the past 15 years, through federal and state block dollars, we were able to decrease that number from being 6th in the state down to 60th out of 67 counties. So great
and
work
that's
with the community.
night and day.
Absolutely, absolutely. Which is why we are very successful in promoting awareness, because we were able to get families on board to say, hey, we're not going to serve alcohol to anyone under 21. We are going to promote activities that help engage the youth in productive activities throughout the year. And so our state block funding and our federal dollars help to provide those programs to our kids.
And that's, again, from 6th to, I mean, that's nothing to brag about. There's only 5 ahead of you
Absolutely.
for being the worst.
Absolutely. It
In
was a
an
major
entire
accomplishment.
state.
Yes. Yes.
Not good.
That's right.
Now, huge leaps and bounds.
That's
no
right.
doubt about it. No
That's
doubt
right.
about it.
That's right.
So, how do you two work together? Just to give people an idea, I've got the chairman of Be Free Lake, and I've got the executive director. do you say, this is what we need you to go out and help us get this?
Absolutely.
Or is it vice versa, or is it a little more collaborative than that?
Absolutely. It's a great collaborative effort. Members of our board represent important agencies that we target in the community. Lake County Public Schools, Fifth Judicial Circuit, basically, the Sheriff's Office. Because we do a lot of crime prevention workshops and activities in the community, we work very closely with the Sheriff's Office as well. Lake County
I
Public
bet.
Schools to reach the kids. So our board members help us bridge that connection between us as well as the staff and faculty of the schools, the community members. So we're reaching a large population in Lake County. It is truly a collaborative effort. We won't be able to do this alone if we don't have those connections. But in terms of getting the word out to families, that's basically what we do. We rely a lot on our board members to help us get that connection with our population.
And besides Delrita, we also have some other great staff who are on board with us
Absolutely.
as contractors.
Yes,
They go
yes.
all throughout the community. Marina did it. Dr. Booth has done it.
Yes,
A bunch of
yes.
staff members, Mr. Kevin,
Kevin.
who have gone out into our community in order to basically promote the mission, promote the programs of Be Free Lake. My greatest contribution to Be Free Lake was voting to hire Delrita because she's just awesome. She took over for the longtime executive director who founded the organization, a woman named Debbie McIntyre. Debbie, for some of the longtime listeners, might remember when she was principal or assistant principal over at Beverly Shores, and then she was the force behind the Safe Climate Coalition. In fact, my boss, Mr. King, was on her board at one point back when it was still under the school board, because what ended up happening was this organization ended up moving from the school board where it was founded to a separate not-for-profit status, which would allow us to navigate through the community a little bit more, to do some fundraising and take other avenues we
Gotcha.
otherwise could not do.
Of course,
Okay.
absolutely.
But our staff, they work really, really, really hard. And this grant we're going to talk about is all because of the staff. I'm just there to sign an occasional check and do a few things.
Right,
she's
sure.
She's the silence behind the violence. She's the quiet behind the riot. So.
Right. I like that. Well, Delrita, if someone who's listening to our show now wanted to get more information, where can they get that information?
Absolutely. They can visit our website at www.befreelake.org. We have many, many resources free, and it's available to the community free of charge. And I'll go into detail about the materials that we provide to community members at events that we take part in. For example, recently, all of our law enforcement offices hosted a National Night Out event. And the purpose of that National Night Out event is to draw families and children to that community event and to connect law enforcement with families, to bridge that gap in the communications process. So while we were there at these events, we had representatives down in the Claremont event and then representatives in the Mount Dora event. While we were there, we distributed over 2,000 Lake County community resource guides. And these are guides
Wow.
that help the community connect with job placement, counseling services, food, shelter, you name it. And we are the only coalition in Lake County that constantly updates that information for the community.
Wow. Again, something else I wasn't fully aware that you guys took care of.
Yes.
If you call 211, you'll get to it.
Okay. All right. Well, we need to take a quick break. And when we return, we'll continue our conversation with Chairman James Argento and Executive Director Delrita Meisner. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Radio Waves. Again, I'm your host, Kris Poliquin, and this is a production of Red Apples Media. Before the break, we were talking about Be Free Lake and getting a little bit of background information on the chairman and the executive director. So for this segment, what I would like to do is find out what kind of programs you guys have, what services you provide, which we've already touched base on in the first half of the show. But I really want the public to get a good idea so that if they're in need or they know someone who's in need, they know that you guys are there and what you can provide for them.
Yeah, tell them about the grant.
Okay, wonderful. Well, this is great news to Lake County, specifically our veterans and families. Be Free Lake submitted a Department of Health and Human Services grant funded under Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration. As a coalition, a drug-free coalition, we qualified to apply for this grant, and as a nonprofit. This grant specifically, we were awarded $375,000 through this
Wow.
grant. We were one out of 100.
That's a lot.
Yes, absolutely. Great. It's great for Lake County. And we are one out of 126 organizations and agencies throughout the entire United States to receive this award. So it was a very competitive grant application process. And what
Oh,
this...
so this was an earn. This wasn't just wait your turn.
No, yes.
No, this was, they worked really, really, really hard to get it. Tell about some of the things you did to get this grant, then
Yes.
follow up with what we can do.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. So prior to being awarded this grant, we also helped the community increase awareness on mental health. That is a huge thing these days with what's going on
is.
in our country. So to help increase mental health, the grant calls specifically for training individuals in our community. It doesn't have to be professionals. This is just family members, anyone
Okay.
assisting our veterans in our community on how to recognize the signs of distress, anxiety, depression on anyone that we come across with in our normal life. And how can we provide mental health first aid, just like CPR, how we provide first aid services to help render life support to an individual who may be in trouble. This curriculum, and it's an evidence-based curriculum, this curriculum helps to train the community on how they can recognize those specific signs and how they can refer people to services. So it is a nationally certified course. It's an 8-hour course.
Okay.
It's normally worth $170, but through these grant funds, we are offering this program completely free. So it's a great credential for people to add in their resumes, under their belts, basically.
And you're a veteran yourself.
Yes.
Well, again, but that's where I got the training. It was to
Yes.
help identify it amongst other service members and family members and others.
And that's going to be extremely important for Lake County because Lake County has a high veterans population. We
Yes.
have
Yeah.
we have elderly veterans, we have those who are middle-aged, we have those who are coming back from the recent conflicts. So we range the gamut of veterans in need of services potentially. So we see the potential of utilizing this grant to help the veterans, to help their family members. I think it's really, really, really important, especially when you look at our populations. In Lake County, you have the villages,
Yes.
you have a number of retirement
yes.
communities,
Yes.
and we have a high veterans population amongst them.
Correct.
Oh yeah, Lake County. There's veterans. We're everywhere.
Absolutely.
Although you can almost say that about the whole country, truthfully.
Yes, yes.
But-
particularly though, the Lady Lake American Legion Post contains approximately about 9,000 members in that particular post, which is the largest
I've been there.
in the nation. It's the largest in the nation. So, again, providing this particular training, people who undergo our training get a manual that tells them what are the signs and symptoms, what are some action steps that you can employ to help individuals who you may suspect may be undergoing some depression,
Sure.
a traumatic event in their lives. So again, it gives you step-by-step instructions on what to do and how to refer them to services. Because we're trying to break the stigma that mental health is a bad thing. It is not a bad thing. We all
No.
experience, we may all experience some days where we're not feeling well and we need a mental health day. And it's okay. It's
Yeah.
okay to take mental health days.
Yeah, and I agree with that. People don't take it serious. Take it serious because it sneaks up on people.
Absolutely.
It really, really does. It really does.
Absolutely.
So, what other programs is you don't just tend to veterans? You spoke earlier about
Right.
youths.
Yes.
and in different schools.
Yes.
Can you talk to me a little bit about that?
Absolutely. Well, we have a program, and it's specifically targeted to our youth population, middle and high school children, students, our future leaders. So this program is called You're Not Alone. It's an evidence-based program, and we talk about the statistics, and we say, hey, listen, 9 out of 10 youth who died by suicide had an underlying mental illness that wasn't even detected. So we're trying to get the word out, and we're trying to educate our students here in Lake County that it's okay. Suicide is the second leading cause of death among youth.
That's crazy.
Ages 10 to 14.
That's amazing.
Absolutely. And many of them, especially if they have a peer who's undergoing some depression, anxiety disorders, they don't know when and where to reach out for help. And
Right.
these are all preventable. So just by educating youth, it's a 1-hour course, and we can break it up into a series of courses. We go into the schools, and we work not only with Lake County Public Schools, we work with our private schools, our charter schools as well in the area.
Good. It's about the children. Or
Yes, absolutely.
not specific schools.
Absolutely. And statistics show that people don't actually seek treatment for a mental health issue or a mental health disorder until late 30s. I'm sorry, I take that back, until
Okay.
early 30s. That's when they actually say, okay, I need professional help. But through this curriculum and through increasing awareness, it's encouraging them.
Why do you think that is? Pride, or they
Stigma.
don't know how to?
Stigma.
They don't recognize it themselves.
Well, I was going to say, one of my jobs for the state attorney's office is that I'm the Baker Act prosecutor. It's
Yes.
my job to go over to
Okay.
live stream each week, which is our crisis stabilization unit, and argue on behalf of the state those cases where someone goes into the facility and might need a little bit longer time for recuperation and mental health treatment. So it's my job to go there, and I see it each week. A lot of it involves stigma. They don't want to admit they have a problem, that they have an illness.
That's
To
right.
me, it's like if you break your arm or you hurt your foot, you go to the doctor. If
Right.
there's something wrong
That's
with our
right.
chemistry, if something is wrong with our thoughts, we need to go to a doctor to help treat us, and that's what that's what they're there for, to help
Right.
treat us. So I've seen that each week of my career for like 5 years. I've been prosecuting those specific types of cases,
Wow.
and it's really, really sad. But it's great because they're getting the treatment they need when they get there, and hopefully they won't relapse or require further hospitalization.
Sure,
And that's
sure.
it. It's a hospitalization. It's not anything different
Absolutely.
than you having appendicitis and needing treatment for that.
Right. But I don't think a lot of people look at it that way. I think
Exactly.
it's, you can break a bone and not be weak.
Right. You're right.
But if you can't control yourself, well, then you're weak. And it's not true. Because it's not about controlling yourself, but you know what I mean? Emotions or feelings or depression. You know, it's really not that cut and dry. So do you think we're moving in the right direction? Do you think that word's getting out and people are more willing to seek out help? Because early 30s, that's kind of down the road. I mean, that's a
Absolutely.
long, there's a lot of life that happens
Absolutely.
before your early 30s.
Right, absolutely. It is increasing awareness. In fact, through our first grant cycle, we had through Project Aware. So MHAT, which is Mental Health Awareness Training, it stands for Mental Health Awareness Training. This MHAT grant serves to continue these services. So through our prior grant cycle under Project Aware, we were able to train over 2,000 individuals in Circuit 5, Lake and Sumter counties, Marion,
Wow.
Citrus, Hernando County, basically to recognize these signs and symptoms. So we're talking about over 2,000 individuals who have been trained over the past 3 years. So awareness is definitely being promoted in regards to mental health.
Okay. Well, gosh, guys, that's about all the time we have. If someone wanted to get involved
Yes.
or look out, because you guys do fundraisings and things of that nature, where can they get that information so that they can participate, help, or seek help for themselves or their loved ones?
Absolutely. We encourage the community to take part and engage with Be Free Lake. This is their coalition. So it's not just one person handling the show or a board members handling the show. This is Lake County's coalition. So we are empowering our community to get involved. And how they can do that is they can contact our Be Free Lake office at area code 352-383-2099 or visit our very informative webpage at www.befreelake.org, and you'll find information on how to register for these programs. We have youth programs as well, information for parents in case they're wanting to find more resources. We have a behavioral
there's a
health
lot.
resource guide. It's a lot. So, and we are strictly state funded and grant funded. So we rely heavily on those grant dollars. Now, grant dollars, as you know, is not guaranteed. So we absolutely need the community's help in terms of if they want to make a contribution. Feel free to contact Be Free Lake. If they want to serve as a volunteer, feel free to contact Be Free Lake. We are here for them.
Okay, so you do have volunteers as well?
Oh, yes, we do.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. Well, James, Delrita, thank you guys so much for coming and taking time out, I'm sure, is in a very busy days, but for coming onto the show and sharing this information.
Absolutely.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us, Kris. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And that does it for our show today. Again, I'm your host, Kris Poliquin, and we'll see you next time.